What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Homie Hangout, where we help others move in excellence. And I'm gonna talk about this Goshen thing. I'm gonna talk about a few things, actually. The Goshen incident. That's not the first time that the government and politicians and law enforcement has seized the opportunity of a baby being killed by a Mexican to sound the alarm and profit and expand their reach, right? And that other incident, which I'll talk about briefly in a second, was one I knew a lot about. I was intimately involved, not in the commission of the act or the beef, but just the, a lot of the circumstances, right? And so, and that was a big show, and this is too, right? And this is what I mean. Um, I'm not going to minimize the loss of life that happened in Goshen. A handful of people got killed, including a child, women, elderly, the whole night, right? For those that don't know what I'm talking about, I'm not going to go through the whole thing. If you haven't heard of it, then I'm not even sure how you stumbled on this channel, right? Like, it's become international news. And it became international news in parts because the sheriff of Tulare County, I believe it was, came out right afterwards, right after his family gets killed. And they got the grainy video and the woman trying to hoist the 10-month-old over the fence and running. It's ugly, right? Um, Said there was a cartel style massacre. Now, unless I've been missing stuff in my time away from the media, I don't I don't know of many instances in recent years in California where cartels from other countries have come and run through houses and murdered families from age 70 to 10 months old. So why he would say that, I don't know where he gets that reference point, right? Except TV, basically, you know. And so that was kind of odd jump. And people ran with that, right? People ran with that on YouTube. People ran with that on TV. Conservatives ran with that. The the sheriff had mentioned open borders, and he made it very political. It was not just about the death of this family or particular ages of the people in this family killed. It was about what this represents for America, right? Mexicans killing babies is what it was. Mexicans are killing babies, and we got to do something about that. And so then it comes out, no, it was Northerners. Northerners that are, of course, a part of this bigger gang called the NF and blah blah blah, and this long rivalry with the NF and the Mexican mafia, and now you're seeing media outlets giving you the most ridiculous kind of breakdown of the origins of this fairly complicated history, right? As if that has something to do with this. Uh, Mind you, these dudes are busting spreads together in New York. They're fighting with each other against other races. So why one would be sending to it didn't make any sense um to anybody that I think was thinking critically about it, but it sounded sexy, right? And so they catch the guy, right? There's a raid. I took a couple notes from the article. But part of the reason it's coming about is a subscriber who's also a friend of mine. Shout out Stockton. Uh, Sent me a link and showed how there was a second wave of this Operation Nightmare. I knew of the first one. I hadn't heard of the second one. And I was like, why is there a second one? They got the people in the first one, right? So the first raid, in which they catch the two people that are allegedly responsible for this, right? Two people that at some time identified as Northerners or North Indians. And there's people in the house that were victims that have been labeled as Sureños, Southern, Southsiders, right? Um, and they have a long-standing beef, right? That probably has something to do with gangs, probably has something to do with other factors as well, because they're in close proximity, right? Um, and so they catch these two, right? One of them gets shot. So they raid three houses. They raid 8 cells across at least 4 prisons, right? Corcoran Bay, North Current, somewhere else. So there you have it. You pop these cats. You probably hit the cells of people that are at least alleged to have been in contact with activities in Tulare County, trying to see if there's a connection there. Okay, cool. Game over, right? Game over. Now these dudes are gonna go to trial, blah, blah, blah. That's it. A couple guys got twacked out of their minds, is what I believe. They were twacked out of their minds and went way overboard on whatever the hell they thought they was going to do over there. But then there's this second wave that lasts 4 days. 17 law enforcement agencies. And like I said, I'm going to cross this up with another incident in which a child was killed. A 3-month-old, actually, not even 10 months old, a 3-month-old in the Bay Area. I'll get to that in a minute. 93 houses. 93 houses. Probably like 10% of the houses in Goshen, but they weren't all in Goshen. But I'm being a smart ass. Tulare County is a small area, right? But anyways, 93 houses. Shout out TC. 23 cells across who knows how many prisons, right? 17 law enforcement agencies for 4 days. This is what they accomplished. Now, what was the fruit of their labor? Right? What did they do to make America safer from cartel style massacres happening? Right? Arrested 18 people. Right? 9 of those were arrested on the last day of the 4-day raid. Friday. What did they find? What did people get arrested for? Somebody's making ghost guns. That is against the law. That's become a big hype with the federal government. I believe it's more about tax money and than it is about actual ghost guns, right? It's not about regulation and tracing guns. It's about money. Right? That's what it is. Gun companies don't want people that are not working for gun companies making guns. That's all. It's not complicated. But nonetheless, ghost guns, the biggest new devil on the map. They catch somebody making those. Modern day equivalent of a Saturday night special. Happening in every hood in America right now. Damn near guaranteed. Right? But so they catch somebody do with that. Find some guns, obviously. And 2 pounds of dope, 2 pounds of meth, a pound of powder, right? Coke. Okay. And like this, 93 houses and 23 cells. It's ridiculous. And that's what you got? Half the people arrested are arrested for possession of paraphernalia cases, right? Probably tweakers or playing with their elbow or something. And they got busted with a rig or a pipe or whatever, right? They're on parole. It looks like they popped a few people in one house or apartment or something where they had some dope. They were making some guns. And there's child endangerment charges, which sounds really scary. And it can be. You should not endanger children. It's convenient that they apply that charge in this case when it's a response to a 10-month-old being shot, outside. But that can range from you're cooking dope in the kitchen and your child is sitting on the stove, right? Or a child is sitting on the stove, to you have a baby bottle in your house and you're engaging in illegal activity. It ranges, and no kid there, but a baby bottle is evident that a kid does come there, and if one of you has a kid or a nephew or whatever, then potentially that child can go there and can be contaminated by whatever they come in contact with. They be harmed, they can die, they can whatever, right? That influence, who knows? So child endangerment is a wide-ranging charge that normally gets dropped when people actually take plea deals. It's just used to up the sentencing. So what's been done? Well, Biden has shown that the whole open border comment, I guarantee that piqued the ears, right? Because Democrats are very nervous about this claim that they're soft on crime. I find that kind of laughable because some of the most extreme policies have been enacted, criminal policies and punishments have been enacted by Democrats on a national and a state level. But that narrative sticks, it works, they hate it because it's bad politics, right? Something like this is bad politics. It's tragic for the family. It's scary as shit for the neighbors, right? I mean, it's a big deal. But the people making a big deal about it on TV don't really concern with that big deal, if that makes sense. Let me rewind. It is a big deal to some. It's a big deal to the community. It's a big deal to the family, the loved ones that lost, the people that live next door that are like, holy shit, something like that happened next door. That's scary. Right? It's a big deal. A big deal to have 17 law enforcement agencies mobbing through your rural county too. Right? Um, that's also a big deal. Not on par with the death of a child. Right? Police harassment does not equate to death of an entire family. But it's bad. Right? Um, and what are they really doing? Nothing. They're not. They're getting hella money. They're getting hella press. Look at our attack on gangs. Because this is what gangs have done this. Gangs are killing our children, and dang it, America, we're not going to stand for it. Right? And we're not going to let the other political party one up us on this one. You know, you're not going to look better coming out of this tragedy than we do. Not going to happen. Right? We are going to look better coming out of this tragedy. It's insane. It's insane. And it reminds me of a small town on a peninsula called East Baltimore. I'm not going to dive super deep into the specifics of this. If you're around, you know. But there was a shooting. I'm closely connected to individuals involved. But what hits the press is gang shooting. Poor innocent Mexican family driving down the street. These vicious Norteño gang members snap, mistaken identity, all kinds of different theories. They spray up this car. A 3-month-old child was murdered. Mother got shot diving over the baby to protect her. The father, poor father, got hit in the shoulder. Miraculously, the 3-year-old boy inside, I believe his age was, he didn't get hit. And they sped up. The family has no idea why. The family's on TV for the press conference. Sitting out of the hospital in wheelchairs, all bandaged up, speaking through an interpreter. I don't know what happened, man. We was just driving down the street from a family function. Fucking animals. Oh my God. Police chief has gone, this is too much. Gangbanging has been too much. Too much. We're going to crack down. Everybody's going to get it. Right? Let me tell you what really happened. Right? Arrests are made. Charges adults, blah, blah, blah. The whole time. People, it's raids. The whole, no federal indictments, but heavy law enforcement presence. You know what I mean? People from all over. Hella agencies, feds, everybody mobbing through town. Harassing everybody. Do not be brown under the age of 30 outside. Like, it's a wrap. You get snatched up. Everybody. But what really happened? Somebody who was a very active gang member was out of bounds. Right? And I'm not justifying what happened. Let me be clear up front. I'm not excusing what happened. A Southsider was out of his area. It really wasn't an area for Southsiders in East Paul at the time, but there was a couple streets, and this was not one of them, right? See some guys walking down the street. Identifies that they're Northerners. It's a northern neighborhood, they're probably northern. Truth is, one of them wasn't even a fucking northern, but that's another story. But see these dudes walking down the street. He starts heading away from a family function, going one direction. Then he flips a bitch and gasses it towards these two young men walking down the street. 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, midnight, something like that. You can't see, right? It's times these Palo Altos and Gardens, bro. You barely street lights. You know what I mean? So all they know is his car, and they seen who got in the car. They also seen there was a whole family that wasn't tripping. This car turns around, smashes, and somebody pulls out a gun, shoots, gets out the way. What the fuck? Was that a vicious gang attack? That was a jackass banging who put his family in jeopardy for some stupid reason, probably drunk. And that was somebody in fear. But like, you know, it was complicated. And it's even more complicated. I'm not going any more into it than that. But to say the police response, this was North and South. It was not North and South. Right? In some ways, yes, in some ways, no. Let me put it like that. Right? It was more complicated than that. But they're painting a picture that was not accurate, right? Had a seed of truth with a field of bullshit. But what happened? Raised the budget. What was the sheriff out there saying? This is during realignment, right? Like 2011. Realignment, all that other stuff, politics of California, law enforcement throwing a fit because now people are going to be held in county jail longer and sentences are going to get reduced. You can do violations in the county, not the pen, blah, blah, blah. All by court order and voter initiatives because the state of California had been bullshitting and defining the court for decades. So there's a lot to it. But they use this incident. Hey, man, millions of dollars have been cut from our funding. And look what happens. Like, one had absolutely nothing to do with the other. Right? There was not a serial killer. Like, there's a lot there. The point is, all this hoopla, Mexicans and dead babies makes for good politics. It's bad for the community. It's bad for the family. But it's the response. Again, there has to be a law enforcement response. I get it. If we're going to have police in this country, that is sure in the hell something that we should expect police to respond to. Don't get me wrong, right? And it should be hopefully a swift and accurate response, you know. But the chatter, it's like the broader public and the political arena, we just grab on these sound bites and these words and run with it, and that is not good because that's empowering political operatives who are not operating in the best interest of those communities where Mexicans and their babies come from, right? It's agencies and law enforcement agencies that are not operating in the best interest. They're operating in their own interest. It's in their interest to make a big fucking deal about what happened in Goshen. What happened in Goshen is a big deal. But is the response going to be something that deters that from happening again? First of all, that is very, 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 very rare. You don't even make special precautions to prevent people from shooting children under a year old. You don't need a special program. There's not some special strategy. This shit hardly ever happens. It's heartbreaking when it does. And it gets dealt with, right? You don't need a special response. All this builds the pockets of law enforcement, builds the political power of political parties. And again, we are pawns. We are pawns in a game in which we can't win. It's not designed for us to win. Is Tulare County going to become a county where adequate services are provided, resources are available? And I'm not excusing like, oh, I'm not making excuses for the folks that did this. Not at all, right? But we're going to talk violence in general. We're going to talk gang violence in general. We're going to talk addiction in general. We know that there are non-law enforcement remedies for those things, right? Is that what is going to happen? Because you increase the numbers of gang members, you increase the number of addicts, you increase the number of all this stuff, and eventually the number gets so big that that very rare incident happens. So is law enforcement and the government responding in a way to reduce those numbers? No. They're raiding 93 houses and 23 cells in 4 days and arresting people with glass pipes and some modern day Saturday night specials and saying, there you go. You know how fucking expensive that is? It reminds me of Black Widow. Black Widow was an insanely expensive venture by the government that produced hardly nothing, right? Same thing with the first indictment in EPA. Not the Operation Sunny Day. They arrested hell of people Sunny Day. But they had one before that against DeVille. And they get nothing. They got conspiracy to traffic in narcotics. Newsflash. Wow. Some people in East Palo Alto were selling drugs. Who'd have thunk? Like that's what they got. The rest like 30 some odd people. The vast majority of them went home. What you got me on? Well, he sells drugs, and you know he sells drugs, and he brought you a burrito at Three Brothers. Therefore, you are conspiring because you're get the fuck out of here. That's what you spend millions and millions of dollars on. That's this is I'm waiting for the numbers to come out. This is an insanely expensive law enforcement response. It we just gotta watch, man. Like, just watch and see what is happening. That's all. Just a little perspective that I hadn't necessarily heard expressed when I did start poking around and seeing what people were talking about. Um, it's not particular, it's not diss on nobody. I'm not. It's not a challenge. It's just the homie hangout. It's my views on stuff. That's all. And hop in the comments. Let me know what you think. Help us move with excellence. That's what homies do. Help yourself at the same time because you're worth it, and help your community. And let's protect one another, man. Let's protect one another.